that, let's open this to the floor now. Please remember to give us your name and publication. First one, please.
Thank you. Ian Parks, New York Times. Christian, you'll obviously be aware of Jos's comments on race day in Bahrain, describing the tensions in the team, that it's on the brink of exploding if you remain in charge. Where's the end game here? He inferenced that it's either you have to go or he'll pull Max out of the team.
Well, look, I'm obviously aware of the comments that were made. There was a discussion subsequent to the race, and I think everybody's focus is very much on the future. The team's focus is very much on defending both of these world titles that we've fought so hard to achieve. Max's 3 successive world titles, to build on that. The 55 victories that he's achieved, the 114 victories that as a team we've achieved, and now sit tied with Williams on the amount of Grand Prix victories. So our focus is very much on the future. And as I say, discussions took place following the race in Bahrain, and we're all looking forward.
Thank you, Christian. All right, next one, please. Yeah, Luke.
Luke Smith from The Athletic. Christian, another one for you. Could you talk a bit more about those discussions? Like, do you feel the air has been cleared between the two sides in this?
Look, I think, I'm not going to air all the discussions, that are private between the parties, but, discussions have been inevitably had, and the team is focused on, the challenges that are ahead of us, and the team is very focused on the season ahead. And whilst we've had a very dominant race in Bahrain, we don't expect that to be the case, in future races. So we're acutely aware of our competitors, and you don't achieve the kind of results that we've had by not being a united team. To win the race by the margin that we did, to achieve a 1-2 finish, the fastest lap, the pole position, you need to be working in total harmony to achieve those kind of races.
Thank you. Next one.
Christian, another one for you, sorry. You've confirmed that he would absolutely be here as team principal in Bahrain, but can you confirm the same about Max, that he will see out his Red Bull contract?
I'm certain that he will. I mean, he's got a great team around him. He's got, great faith in that team. And we've achieved an awful lot together. So, he's committed to an agreement until 2028. From a team side, from Max's side, we're determined to build on the success that we've achieved already. And those 55 victories have all come in Red Bull cars. All of the podiums have come in Red Bull racing cars, and we're determined to build on that and add hopefully many more in the future.
Thank you. Another one. Eric, yeah.
Erik van Haren, Telegraaf. Sorry, again for Christian. About Max's father, do you think Lewis made some comments yesterday about it as well? Do you think he is too involved in all this and it's maybe a distraction for everyone?
Well, look, obviously Max's father has played a key role in his career and getting him to Formula One. But obviously, Jos is his own man. Max is, his own man as well. And we've seen him go from being a teenager when he joined us to, now very much a young man that's achieved what he has. So, it's not for me to comment on relationships between fathers and drivers. They're all unique between the different individuals.
Thank you. Any more? Yep.
Sam Johnston, Sky Sports. Another one for Christian. Do you have any regrets about the potential reputational damage that has emerged from this episode for the team, for yourself and sponsors?
Well, obviously there's been an awful lot of coverage surrounding this, but one has to go back to the basis of a grievance was raised, it was fully investigated, and it was dismissed. And from there, we move onwards. And I think an awful lot has been made out of this. Obviously, it has been obviously of great interest in different elements of the media for different reasons. And I think the time now is to look forward and to draw a line under it. We're here to go racing. We're here as a Formula One team. And the time now is to focus on what is going on track and the performance of the cars and the drivers and where the spotlight should be during the course of a Grand Prix weekend.
Thank you. Yep, Luke.
Luke Smith from The Athletic. Christian, another one for you. The reports today that the complainant has been suspended by Red Bull Racing. Are you able to explain the decision or comment any further on that matter?
Look, I'm afraid that I can't comment on anything that's confidential between an employee and the company, so I can't offer you anything on that, I'm afraid.
Ed, yeah.
Ed Straw from The Race. Another one for Christian. Obviously, you can't comment on the situation about the employee suspension. Is there a plan to bring some transparency to this in the future? And do you kind of recognise why it's necessary to do something? Because obviously to the watching world, particularly the sort of female population watching, it doesn't really fit in with the attempts that F1 and Red Bull have made to show that it's a positive place for women to be. And you can understand why it hits a nerve there. So is there anything that you can commit to down the line that will actually make what's happened clearer and regain that confidence?
Well, I think it's a complicated issue because each company and these companies will be exactly the same as with any other major company, that there is a grievance process that takes place in any company, and that process is confidential between the individuals. That's and the company itself. Now, I'm not at liberty, unfortunately, due to those confidentiality and out of the respect to the company and of course the other party, that we're all bound by the same restrictions, and so even if I would like to talk about it, I can't because of those confidentiality restrictions. Now, there's a reason for that. Now, the only reason that this has gained so much attention, obviously, is because of the leakage and the tension that there's been drawn in the media, and which has been very very trying in many respects, and particularly for my family, because it's all been focused very much in one direction. And of course, what has happened then after that, others have looked to take advantage of it, and whether that be for unfortunately Formula One is a competitive business, and there's been obviously elements have looked to benefit from it, and that's perhaps the not so pretty side of our industry. So of course there are always lessons, but there's a process that is governed within within the company, that it's not an FIA issue, it's not a Formula One issue, it's a company employee issue, and that would be the same in any in any major organization. I think the one thing that I've seen and learned, certainly from any investigation, is that don't preempt the facts. There needs to be an investigation, and I'm sure the relevant parties, and again the process that they have within the statutes of the FIA, will be followed. And all I would urge is don't prejudge. Wait for the facts. Wait to see what is the reality before coming to a judgment.
All right, thanks all. Back to the floor. Yes, more questions.
Christian Mehnert, motorsportmagazin.com. Another question for you, Christian. You touched on this a bit earlier. Do you think there is a campaign against you? And if so, who do you think is behind?
Look, we've been tremendously successful. We've done a lot of winning, and we're very united as a team, and that's what we're focused on for the future. There's been obviously an awful lot of coverage around this situation, but I think the time really is now to move on, to focus on what's going on the track, and we've got a busy and competitive season ahead of us, and that's what we're certainly focused on.
Okay, next one. Yeah, Phil.
Phil Duncan, PA. Christian, just going back to Jos, have you spoken directly to him since he made those comments, and do you think that relationship between the two of you can be repaired?
I spoke to Jos following the Grand Prix, and obviously congratulated on his son's performance. And I think it's in everybody's interests collectively that we've agreed to move on, to focus on the future. And we both have a vested interest in his son to get the best and provide the best cars for him and to get the best out of him. And he's started the season in the best possible way. He's an outstanding talent, and hopefully we can continue to provide him a very competitive car.
Thank you, Christian. Yes, more.
Ian Parks, New York Times. Apologies to the other three gentlemen that are here. Sorry, Christian. Christian, you were asked earlier about the reputational damage to Red Bull. On a personal level, are you concerned about the damage that might have been done to your reputation over these past 3 weeks, regardless of the independent investigators' adjudication? And conversely, do you have any sympathy for the woman involved and what this whole saga might have done to her reputation as well?
Well, look, it's obviously been a very trying period. I'm married and have 3 children, and when that intrusion includes your children and the scrutiny that it's placed on my marriage, I'm very fortunate that I have a beautiful family and a very supportive wife. I'm the only one that has been named in this. So, of course, it's very trying. It's very challenging because when there's children involved, when there's families, parents, etc. involved, it's not pretty. And the reality is that there was a grievance that was raised. It was dealt with in the most professional manner by the group, not by Red Bull Racing, but by the owners of Red Bull Racing, Red Bull GmbH, that appointed an independent KC that is one of the most reputable KCs in the land. He took time to investigate fully all of the facts. He interviewed all of the people involved together with others of interest. He looked at everything. He had all of the facts, and he came to a conclusion where he dismissed the grievance. As far as I'm concerned, as far as Red Bull is concerned, we move on and we look to the future. And, my wife has been phenomenally supportive throughout this, as have my family. But the intrusion on my family is now enough. And we need to move forward and to focus on what we're here for. And I'm sorry for these 3 gentlemen that they're not here talking about their cars and drivers today. That it's time now to focus on why we're here, which is to go Formula One racing.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more. Yep.
Samarth Canal, The Race. Christian, you said it's time to move on, but why do you think it has taken people so long to move on from this, including the media, including the public?
Well, there's been a constant source of, there's been one thing after another, and I think that as I say, there's been an awful lot of leakage around this in what is a private and confidential matter between the employees and the company, and it's unfortunately through that leakage garnered an awful lot of coverage, and as I say, it's now time to focus on the track and what we're here to do, which is to go racing. And we're a race team. We've got some phenomenal partners that have been hugely supportive through this. The team, the company, the 1,600 people that work within the group, I have to thank them as well for their support. Yeah, it's time to move on. We see today Formula One Academy coming alive with the support of the teams. We have 3 drivers, 3 cars across the Red Bull Group in that. We've announced new partners that we welcome to the sport, and I think that now is the point of focus, that we're here for a Grand Prix, and we should be talking about the cars and the drivers.